You're here. Welcome to the Masterminding Success podcast. They say if you want to be successful in business and in life, then surround yourself with successful people. So pull up a seat. The mastermind is about to begin.
Hey, glad you could join us for another episode of the Masterminding Success podcast. We're your hosts, Keith Wheeler
and Nuria Corby.
And what are we talking about today, Nuria?
Today, we're going to talk about how to get repeat customers. So another great topic, really.
Yeah. Yeah. And with a topic like getting repeat customers, we figured who better to join us than Mr. Kindlepreneur himself, Dave Chesson. Hey, Dave.
Hi, Dave.
Hey guys, thanks for having me.
Welcome to the podcast. We're really happy to have you here.
Yeah, this is a great topic too. I really love this and talking about it. So a lot of stuff.
Yeah. And like I was saying, but right before we started, seems to be a topic that no one really seems to be talking about. And I think getting repeat customers is super important. I can only speak for myself, but when I say repeat customers, I'm not talking about someone who goes and buys multiple books all at once, because that's really just one customer that bought multiple books. Repeat customers is someone who comes back, like you got them and they came back to buy something else from you. So that's what I mean when I'm talking about repeat customers.
Yeah.
I think that is a good point, because there are businesses where you don't get that chance. There are some type of businesses that just do a one-off sale and that's it. And, usually when it's something really expensive.
Right.
But with books, I think we're really lucky in that we can create something that can get us repeat customers. And there's ways to do that as well. And I think that's what we're going to talk about today, how to get repeat customers in the first place. We don't want to create a book and then just, a person buys it and never buys from us again. We want them to come back and buy the next book. So there are ways to do that. And I think I've got a few ideas. What are your ideas on the subject?
I would say,
start with Dave. Yeah.
I was going to say, before getting into the subject, one of the things I really like to start by discussing is the mentality of a repeat customer. Now, one of the things we authors kind of forget about is that when somebody buys our book initially, right, the first time, they're interested in the story. They're not interested in you yet. They don't know who you are. Right? So they're now invested in the story and the characters you built. And so in order to turn somebody from just liking your story to liking you, I've always said, and I actually borrowed this from somebody else, is that you almost need like a couple of digital handshakes with them. Okay. These are a couple of times where they've continued to see your story, your narrative, your art. And then finally they'll put the things together and be like, wow, this is a good author. I would read more of their stuff. And so one of the things that I like to focus on when we talk about repeat customers is, how do you turn a fan of a story into a fan of you? And that process by which you do that, I think, is one of the most core and critical things to creating repeat customers. And technically what you're doing is you're creating a fandom. You're creating a group of people who admire you for your work instead of admiring your work. And that, I think, is one of the big things that needs to be discussed.
That's a really good point. I didn't even think about it in that way. And that is so true. Yeah.
Yeah. Because people buy from brands that they know, like, and trust. And so you, like you said, when you're first starting out, they don't know you. And again, I know we'll probably be talking a lot about like fiction and things like that, but the same thing goes for nonfiction, or even no content, low content books. Like, you need to get them to like you as a brand. And I think one of the big things is consistency, whether it's consistency in your writing, consistency in your branding on your covers and everything else. So they do get familiar with you.
Well, and I think one thing that's really important to remember is that everyone listening has probably read a book where they liked it, but they can't remember the name of the author, right? I just read a book called We Are Legion, We Are Bob. Loved it. Great book. Totally going to get the next book in the series. I don't remember the name of the author. And why is that? Well, the only time that I come across the name of the author is when I'm looking at the cover, right? I see it there. If there's the bio at the end, sure. Now there's another time. And I don't think I got to the bio because I still don't remember the name.
Right.
So granted, I love this story so much, I'm going to search for the next book in the series. But what's to say if I come across a book that guy has written before that isn't in that series, am I going to recognize him and be like, oh, that's the dude that did, We Are Legion, We Are Bob. Huh. I'll just go get it. And so the key is that particular author is missing out on an opportunity because they haven't worked to engage with me. All they did was write a really good story. Not knocking that. That's really important.
Right.
But I believe that this particular author would make a lot more money if there was a way for me to be connected with them or to follow them or to understand their name instead of me making a fool of myself on this. Because I'm sure many people have read that book that are listening and being like, Dave, come on, it's so-and-so. But it just goes to highlight my point that I think that author is really missing out on a very easy repeat customer because they're not doing certain steps to help me as a customer get to know them and become a fan of them.
Yeah. And the number of books that I've seen recently that you mentioned the author bio, but the number of books I've seen that don't do that. They think that people aren't interested in that or whatever. And granted, you're going to, a good portion of the people reading the book aren't going to read that. But that's the difference between a reader and, a super fan. The ones that are super fans do want to know more about you and, and your social, whatever your social media handles are or whatever, like you don't want to give them any reason to not be able to connect with you. Yeah. I think is a good point.
And we can go ahead and start with just the bio. The bio is a great opportunity to make you a human. I know I said the word human. We all know we're humans, but what I mean by that though is that we forget about the person and the soul behind the book itself. And this is that one opportunity where you really get to shine. My recommendation to authors when doing this bio is I'm going to split between nonfiction and fiction, but in fiction, sort of embody the genre you have. Talk about from that angle. If it's sci-fi military, maybe you have a veteran background. Maybe you understand the plights of, the military, just like the Space Marines of such and such. Really kind of bring that in. Bringing in your personal details, making yourself sound more human. Right. Don't make it like a LinkedIn page, where it's very corporate and sentence by sentences. You're in a creative world. Be a little creative and have fun with that. I've connected with people just by hearing funny things. One of the little exercises that I tell authors to do is there's this game called Two Truths and a Lie, right? And the sole purpose is to find two truths that people can't believe, that you could do. And so if you play that game a couple of times with yourself, maybe make a list of 7, find fun ways to put that in there that blows people's minds. And if your style is brevity, or humor and things like that, then make it humorous. If yours is a horror, then make it, clear. Maybe even talking about an experience that you had, that drove you into the macabre. But these things are very important because now you're just not a name and a bio. You're a human. You're someone real. There is a real artist behind this book. With regards to nonfiction, it is a little bit harder because in truth, what you want to do is you want to validate why you as the author should write about this subject. Now, in certain subjects, you can have personal stories. You can have, information as to why this driven, if you're writing about, losing weight and you want to talk about the challenges that you had before and what was that critical moment that turned, your life around. If you are a doctor, that's always great to put in there and talk about your medical background, talk about why you fought with the medical, general, and this is why this is a new direction. There's a lot of ways that you're not doing a LinkedIn profile either on nonfiction. Right. You're kind of touching that a little bit more, but there's a way to make it feel like there's real emotions behind this. There's real challenges that need to be solved. And from a empathetic point, you're right there in the ditches with your reader, or, or there's a true curiosity. There's all these different ways that you can hit that, whether by explaining that pain point, why you did it, explaining the solution and why you got there, as well as your qualifications. And I think those are two really great opportunities that many authors miss, is by leaving a little bit of a lackluster bio and less of an opportunity to make yourself more of a human.
Mm.
Yeah. And I think that you brought up a really good point in the making yourself human is, and especially with your idea of the two truths and a lie, is not only giving information about yourself so you can seem more human, but seeming more memorable as well. So again, so you don't, they've read your bio, but are they still going to remember you? Mm-hmm. So again, something that will make you, that they're going to walk away, being like, this author, so-and-so, that was crazy about that. And again, whether it's, a fact about you because you're writing nonfiction, or, something crazy why you got into the genre. And you can do this whether you're writing under your own name or a pen name. Either way, you can do it.
Yeah. If you want to see a really good example, I even put on my blog at kindlepreneur.com. If you go to the About Me page or so, it's written in kind of a informal manner. There is a picture of my family and I acting crazy because that's who we are. Family is very important to me. And I do have my 7, things most people don't know about me. Little box that has all these bullet points, that are just weird facts. And those little things make people feel like, that they've got the inside, they understand me. Right. And now when they read a Kindlepreneur article, it's not just black and white. It's not just words on a page, that teach people. It's written by somebody and they feel like they know that somebody. And so there's more of a connection to it. So not just on your books, but if you have a website, if you have a social media profile, these are all opportunities to make yourself look a little bit more human than, the LinkedIn post.
Yeah. Newsletters are a great example as well.
Yeah. Well, speaking of newsletters, I'm not gonna lie, that's probably my favorite way to truly make multiple digital handshakes. Okay. Matter of fact, I honestly believe that if an author were to tell me that they intend to write more than one book, my favorite marketing thing is great, work to collect email. And now if the person says I'm only writing one book, I just want to get it out there, and that's it. Then I'm like, don't waste your time on email. Got it. But if you're really looking to build a career off of it, there's no greater way than email. And for the listeners, the reason why email is so powerful is because it's the one time where now you have the ability to reach out to them, not put it out in the ether and hope they find it again, but that you can directly communicate with them. And so now you have an opportunity that every time you send that email, you can do another digital handshake. You can introduce yourself. You can make yourself be a name, other than a story. And so convincing people to sign up for your email list, and then really writing and crafting emails that are personable, that also provide value, is just one more way and one more way. And now, by the way, coming back to our original subject, with that email, when your next book comes out, you can email them and get that next sale, or you can email them about something else.
Right. Yeah. Email list. And I mean, we could do a whole episode on that, but I mean, that's the only way that really make Amazon's customers or wherever they're buying from your customers, because then you can have, not only, like you said, you can, give them updates, you can give them updates as you're writing the next book. So you get that buzz going, but also, I use that to, kind of what you were saying about your bio, I'll share, pictures of my grandkids from time to time, or, like if someone's birthday or whatever. And again, it makes you more human.
Yeah, absolutely.
I sometimes think I like to write emails as if I'm writing to a friend, because I think that way you're kind of making a deeper connection with people. And because I found it really difficult at first, when I had to write emails, I thought, what on earth can I write about? What do I have to say that could be of interest to anybody? And then it kind of clicked when I thought that way. I thought, let's just write to them as if they're a friend of mine, and I'm telling them about my day, or I'm telling them about something that I've seen or something that I've written, or, So I think that is a good way to look at it, because I know people find it difficult. maintaining an email list is not easy, because you have to keep coming up with ideas. But when if you just imagine it's a friend, it suddenly flows a lot better, because you know what you're going to tell a friend about your day. So that's one of the tips that I could give. I found the whole email thing quite difficult at the beginning, but it's a lot better now, and I understand why it's so important now, which at first I didn't understand either. I heard about, you have to have an email list, but I never got round to actually creating one at the beginning, whereas now I think it's the most important thing.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, I use my email list. I even, I'll send them, because my background is in market research for over 25 years. So I'll send, some, one question survey, whatever. And I learn more about, what makes them tick, what they're interested in, besides just the genre that that particular, newsletter is for. And, things I never would get from Amazon or anybody else. Again, and when you make those digital connections, digital handshakes, like Dave is saying, one of the biggest complaints I hear people say is, I hate selling. I just want to write. I don't want to be salesy. But the more you make a connection with people and the more they know, like, and trust you, the less you have to sell.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to be salesy. You're just being informative. You're just telling them this is what's available, and the sales can come.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And sometimes, again, back to what I was saying, that can be done in a way as if you're talking to a friend as well, because I've just sent an email saying, oh, guess what? I'm writing a new book. This is the cover that I'm thinking of. What do you think? And it's amazing the amount of emails I had back telling me what they thought about the cover. Some good, some not so good, but the ones that gave the most criticism were actually so useful, because now I can create a different kind of cover that I might not have thought about before. So I think it's really, you're building a community with your email, and you're kind of taking people on a journey with you. So whatever you're doing, just kind of tell people about it. And that's not selling. That's just telling people what you're doing. And I think you said something really interesting in a previous podcast episode, Keith. You said something about your book is your baby, and you don't mind telling people about your baby, do you?
Exactly. Exactly.
You're just going to talk about it all the time. So it's the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I know there's, like you had said earlier, there's probably spend a whole episode on how do you collect emails, but there is one particular tactic that I really like to talk about that aligns with what we're saying here, which is how do you build those connections? How do you make yourself more human? And one of my favorite things to do, especially for a new author, is I'm gonna break this into fiction and nonfiction. But on fiction, I believe the greatest and easiest way to gain people not only to sign up for your email list, but then to want to engage with your content is that while a lot of authors write like here's a free book, sign up for my email list, you get a free book. I recommend that authors actually design either like a side story to the story that the person is currently reading. It could be a prelude, it could be a side story, an event, or post-credit scene. And what I mean by that is the more you can drive curiosity on the story, the more the person's not only going to want to sign up for it, they're going to want to actually read what you sent. I think that when people just write a random short story and then they offer it as an email, if somebody signs up for it, remember what we said, right? They're not a fan of you yet. They're only a fan of this particular story. So now you just throw in them a different story, there's going to be a lot less reads. So an example of this is like, let's say, for example, you're writing a romance and it's about a woman who had the worst experience on a date to the point that she's almost sworn off men. And the friends, throughout the story, the friends keep mentioning, the date from, Mr. X. They just call him Mr. X. Oh, yeah, it's not going to be another Mr. X, a scenario. And then, you get through the end of it. Now, imagine if you're like, would you like to read about that date they all talked about? Sign up for my email list. I'll send you a free book, mini book on that. Now, what's great about it is, one, that side story, you're building up the curiosity throughout. Now, if somebody doesn't read the side story, right? It doesn't affect the main story. It doesn't like cut out. That would be something to make people angry. But now you're building up the curiosity. Of course, I want to read about Mr. X and what did he do that made her almost swear off men, right? I am invested in the story. I got to the end. I'm investing in that story. Now I've read 2 of your things and I'm on your email list, and you've already proven that you're really scratching my itch for that kind of thing. I'm going to be a much better email sign up. I'm going to be very close to becoming a fan of yours. You just need to cultivate that just a little bit more, and you're right there. Another example is like if you're writing a sci-fi military, you could make it that one of the names of, the Marines, is like Bishop, and every, the new rookie looks over and is like, well, how'd you get your name? Because you're clearly not a religious person. And, like, hey, you got to earn your stripes in order to know where our names come from. And then you find out that it's somehow connected to a battle, before the rookie got there. And now you have the battle, let's say it's the Battle of Argoth or something like that, in the Battle of Argoth, that's when Bishop became Bishop. Well, now I could offer that side story, right? Hey, read the Battle of Argoth, find out, how Bishop became Bishop. Now I get to be a part of the group. I feel included. I'm totally going to jump on that and read it, especially. Or it could be just a side quest. If you're in fantasy, your main character stopped in this town that was already burning, and all these people were slayed, and you had this weird sense of deja vu. Then you move on. But the side story is what happened. There's a lot, or, as the fantasy people would call a side quest. But the point, though, is there's a lot of really good opportunities. And for those of you who don't understand post credits, Marvel really made this a hot thing. Yeah. But you watch like a Marvel movie, and then you get to the end, and then they have the credits. But people will wait to after the credits to see the revealing scene that gives a heads up on what's going to happen in the next movie. Or it could just be a funny thing. But the point, though, is that people get really excited about it. So all of that to say is that there's a lot of opportunities in fiction for an author to create a really cool short story that is connected to the story they just read, were invested in, and liked. That will drive much, much more of your readers to go from, I read one book, to I want to sign up for your email list, and I want to read the next thing, and now I'm a lot more invested in your work. That's fiction. With regards to nonfiction, I think it's really important to create kind of like study guides or aids, or even like, just 2 or 3 videos that you can post somewhere where, it helps to explain. And the reason why I love this is because, hey, sign up for my email list and I'll give you a free mini course. Sign up for my email list and I'll send you over all the PDFs that were discussed, or in a couple of really awesome case studies, that I sourced many times that I think is really important for you to read. All of that is adding a lot more value to the information that you're presenting. It also is easier to market too. I love to put on the covers of mine that says includes free mini course, or video course. Now, if I'm looking at 2 books on the subject matter, I'm like, okay, there's this one. That's, let's say, $2.99 for the ebook. And then there's this one that's $2.99 for the ebook, but also comes with a free course. Guess who I'm selecting? I'm not only selecting it, I'm quickly signing up. I have found too that when I've done this, a lot of people will, and I do strategically do this sometimes, not all the time, but there's still the look inside part. Some people would click on the book, look inside, and then go sign up for the course. Now, a lot of people might argue with me and say, well, the person who signs up for the free course, and chose not to pay you for the book, like, do you really want them as a customer? And that depends, because they clearly have a need for this information. And if I make 3 very easy videos, it might drive them to want to take more action. Maybe I have a course that I sell later on. So I'm still driving the right target market. They just might be cheapskates. So that's why sometimes I will and sometimes I haven't, depending on the overall product. But I will tell you this, though. When I put bonus content, in nonfiction, when I post, side stories to the story that they read as a sign up, I've seen my email subscribers not only double, but I've also seen a lot more people on there that actually interact with me. So when I send out an email, they respond, they take action when I recommend books. So that's a really, really key tactic that I really love.
That's great suggestions. Yep.
Definitely. that's a different way of looking at things, which some people probably don't think about. So that's it makes total sense as well. So, but sometimes we just don't think of things, and we need someone to point it out. Yeah.
Absolutely fair. Yeah, but it's really good because, like I said, that's a really first a great maybe second date, right? The first date is, here's the book that you just bought. You found me, hopefully through keywords or advertisement or whatever. You found that one book, you enjoyed it, and now here's the free side story, or here's the upgraded content. That's another, that's the second date, and that's where you're really proving yourself that you're worthy to re-engage. And now when I send you an email, crafting your first couple of emails, to not waste their time, like you said, Nuria, it's like writing to a friend. How would you write? How would you speak? Now all of a sudden you're becoming more human, maybe making some great recommendations. One of the things that I do love to put in my email that some people are like, well, why would you do that? Is in fiction, I really love to provide some of my favorite books in that genre. And that's totally okay if it's not some friend of mine or anything. What I'm doing is legitimizing myself and also giving them a heads up. You'd be surprised how many people hit reply like, oh, I read all those, or I read a couple of those. Wow, I haven't heard about this one. You're driving their curiosity and you're providing value because you're giving them recommendations. And, if you write in this genre, you should know some great recommendations, right? That's super easy. And again, that's just one more way. You've provided more value. You've done another digital handshake. You've shown why you like certain books. You've almost created too some of your legitimacy as a writer in that genre by proving, hey, I know really good litter peachy books. Okay, you can see it from this. So
and you're also you're coming off more as a friend than a business person, because you're not only pushing your own stuff, or only pushing stuff of a friend. You're showing them things. I'm trying to help you. Again, it really comes down to just providing value.
Yeah, exactly. Why am I still on this guy's email list, right? Well, every time I open it up, it's something very interesting. And you know what? When you continue to provide more value, that's when you go to say, hey, my latest book came out. More people will want to interact with that, not be like, oh, here it comes. And I think it was Gary Vaynerchuk once wrote a book, and the title was Jab, 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 Right Hook. What he means by the jab, 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 right hook is, the jabs are the whole, here's some great content. Here's some great things. Here's some value, provided. And then I'm actually using the wrong one, but the right hook comes from, when here comes the sales, here comes that pitch. And so using that, I think, is a really effective manner to build yourself and then prepare for the right hook.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
I mean, and of course, Gary V knows what he's talking about. So
yeah, he is a funny guy.
Yeah, definitely. No, that was one of the first things, providing value. When you said about the topic, what topic are we going to talk about? And I kind of thought about, well, it's a good topic, but I actually haven't really thought about it. So what's the first thing that came into my head was providing value. As long as you provide value, you're going to get repeat customers, because they love you. They want to hear more interesting things. And, that was one of the first things that came into my mind when I thought about the topic. So, yeah, I think that's something that, again, people don't really think about when they're at the beginning of their journey, of their writing journey, because I'm thinking a lot of our listeners are probably people that are just starting out, and it's not necessarily something that you think of at the beginning. You're kind of just hoping to write that book and just to publish it, and that's all you're thinking about at the beginning. And it's only later when you write another book and another book that you're starting to put the puzzle pieces together. And I think that's when you start thinking about, what can I provide that's valuable to people? So I think you learn that in time. It's not something that comes naturally either. To some people it might. It didn't come naturally to me. So yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's one of those things that I've talked about numerous times, but it's, it's kind of a smart person learns from their own mistakes, but a wise person learns from others' mistakes. For those people who it doesn't come natural and you don't think of that, hopefully, an episode like this makes you think of it earlier than you would have normally. And it just gives you that much more of a head start to getting those repeat customers.
Yeah. There's also one other tactic that I think is really useful, especially for an author who's already done one book and didn't think about the repeat customer component. And that's with your keywords. So one of the things that's really good about it, like when your first book came out, like shoppers shop for a certain type of book. Okay. In fiction, I love liter-PG cultivation. I type that phrase in a lot when looking for my next liter-PG cultivation book. If you're, let's say, a Victorian second chance romance, family, wholesome Christian, whatever the phrase is, these avid readers have these phrases that they constantly use to look for books. Now, let's say, for example, your book showed up for, we'll say, liter-PG cultivation. Okay. When now a shopper came and they bought your book and they read it. And bummer, there was no way to capture their email. And so they've moved on. They've forgotten about you. They just thought it was a good story. The end, you have no more connection. Well, when you do come out with that next book, you do know that that person is still swimming in that same stream. They're always looking for it. And so when you come out with your next book, using some of the keywords that helped your first book out the most, gets your book again in front of those same people. And that person who interacted with your first book is like, oh, wait a second, I think I remember this author. And they'll be more likely to engage because of that first engagement. And so that's one way to get a repeat customer, or at least to get that second or third chance to finally connect and collect their information. And one of the best ways of doing that is, so I said the key is to know what keywords your book was showing for, right, when people were shopping on Amazon. Well, you can now do that. You can actually figure out what keywords Amazon was showing you for, and therefore what was driving people to it. On Publisher Rocket, we have a new feature called the reverse ASIN. And what this is that you can take the ASIN number, which is the Amazon equivalence of an ISBN code. All right, you put that ASIN number into it, and then Publisher Rocket will show you all of the keyword phrases that Amazon thought that your book should show for and that your book did. So now you know the words that your target customers have probably seen when they were looking for your book. Choose those when you're trying to choose the keywords for your next book so that you're getting in front of those customers who not originally saw your book and bought it. And so you're benefiting from that second sale. I would also say that this is a really important tactic, especially if you're writing in a series. So if you have a series book and you first come up with your 7 KDP keywords and you put them in there. Amazon helps to bring people to your book and make sales. Well, a lot of people ask, well, then what do I do on book 2? And I say, well, go look at the keywords that did the most for your book 1. Put those same in there. Maybe change a couple of blocks, maybe 2 or 3 of the blocks, change it up to be more pertinent to that second story. However, though, you now know that, hey, the people who love book 1, okay, they found my book through these keywords. Let me at least get in front of them again in case they didn't sign up for my email list or forgot that there was a book 2, or I was working on book 2 while they were reading book 1. Another great way, it's kind of like if you know that your customers go to this one street in your neighborhood, then when you go to sell your second book, go to that street, right? Get in front of them. Right. Because that's where you sold the first one. They're going to be walking by and be like, oh, wow, book 2's out. Cool. So using the keywords to get your book in front of those same shoppers is an excellent way to get that repeat purchase.
Yeah. I mean, why reinvent the wheel? You've already got, you've got traction there. So, I mean, that's a great place to start. Yeah.
Yeah. That is a good point. Again, it's something that many people probably don't think about, but it kind of makes sense when you hear it. So yeah, that's a really a good one. And another one that I was thinking of that a lot of people have asked me about is they keep asking me, can you put your books at the back of your book or somewhere in your book to let people know that you've got these other books? And I always say, yes, you should. You should have a page in your book that says, these are also books by, and then your author name. What do you both think about that? Do you think that's a good idea? Does that work, or is that something you don't do?
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. There's some some genres that I'm in that I've done it with, where others I haven't. But even Draft to Digital, for the ebook, they're actually, there's a box that they can click on that will just, everything that you have published through them will automatically be put in the back matter, so they can just link to it right then and there.
That's something I didn't know either.
Yeah,
I
back
didn't know
matter is
Draft
a
to
great.
Digital did that.
Yeah, back matter is a great opportunity. Matter of fact, being able to automatically update the back matter as you come up with new books is key. I was doing an interview with somebody years ago. I'm blanking on his name, Steve. Can't remember his last name, but I was asking him. I was like, "Hey, when did you finally hit that moment where you were making more, like you were making money, right? Like there's a lot of times if you talk to authors that are really crushing it in their sales, like there was always that one book or that moment where the inflection point happened. And Steve had said that it was book 7. And he was a nonfiction. There were all these different books. And I was like, well, what happened with book 7? And he was like, well, he said, that was the one that really connected, got him right in front of the right people. And the book sales soared. But he was like, the craziest part was not only did that one book increase in sales, like go nuts, all of my books started increasing in sales. I had some of the best months I've ever had on all of my books. And it was because of his back matter. It was because people could see that they had, oh, well, I love this book. Wow, this Steve guy's written a bunch. Click, buy. And so all of a sudden, everything in his library went up because of that one book finally got the visuals, and they found all these other things. And Draft to Digital does that also too. Anybody who uses Atticus for their book formatting, we have a save template page. And so what you can do is you have your also buy section, and you can make it where when you're working on the next book, you can just import the also buy section. And if you update it to add another book, it will update all of your books previously. So now what's really cool is a lot of authors, when they come out with, let's say, book 5, okay, a 5th book, they'll go and they'll update book 4, 3, 2, and 1 to include book 5 in there in the back, and then resubmit them all to Amazon. That way, if somebody ends up finding the first book you wrote, they can read about the latest one too that just came out. And now you're continuing to perpetuate the sales from 1 to 5 or 2 to 4, 4 to 1, whatever order that shopper finds you at. They now have a catalog of everything you've read. And that is a great way to drive a quick sale.
Very interesting. Yeah, that kind of confirms it for me that it is very important. And I love Atticus, by the way. It's really good. That's made my life so much easier. So yeah. It's
thank you.
It's good that it has all those little touches, like the also buy page, and that's
and really, being able to create templates for people to just be able to automatically apply. That way, you're not having to reinvent the wheel or come up with something new or go find a file and copy and paste.
It, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's true.
So yeah, I loved your idea about the also buys. Question for you guys is there another section inside the book that should get a little love, so as to generate, personal connection? We already talked about bio. We talked about the also buy. One thing that comes to mind, especially in nonfiction, is that if you have a place that you're trying to send them to, whether it's your website or whether it's your YouTube or your Instagram or something, I recommend having a page that explains the benefits of following you on Instagram or whatever it is. If it's a green smoothie book, have a page devoted to your, Instagram, assuming you have one, where you come out with new recipes, where you show them how to make things, and you can follow me on the tracker for, 60 days to green smoothie health, but the point though is have a page devoted to that next step. You might have your bio page. Great. I get to know you. You have your catalog. Great. I can find more books. But where's the place where I get to be a fan? Right. Where's the place where I get to follow and be a part of it? With regards to, fiction, that really depends on what you use. If you have a website where you actually blog, then great. Talk about that. Talk about maybe some of your key pieces. If you're going to conferences, you might even want have a section that talks about, hey, I'm a speaker at all these author conferences. Click this link to see where I'm speaking next. Not only does that make it look even cooler, it also gives them an opportunity, to actually say, wow, okay, cool. I'm actually going to be at that one. I should go talk to them. I will see them at the conference. So again, there's all these other opportunities to create a page that allows your reader to find you and to follow you wherever it is that you are. And I think that's a page that gets skipped. There's no real term for it, but maybe that's ideal landing page. But yeah, that's definitely another great opportunity.
Yeah, that's a great idea, because one thing that it's all about, again, being more human, and I think it's important to put things in there like, hey, not just here's a link to my social, like giving information, like you said, why, basically, and without being too wordy, make them want to click on that or go to that website if it's, the print version. And, so that way it's not just, they don't feel like you're just trying to sell them or send them somewhere. They want to go there.
Yep. There's a reason why you're providing that content, that opportunity. There's a benefit to them that is now described.
Right. And I think most people, I don't know about you, but when I read a book that I really like and it's given me a lot of value and I got a lot from it, I do look up the author and I do want to know what else have they written. Are they on Instagram? Are they on Facebook? I do that. So I think if I do that, probably other people do it as well. And it's worth having all your details. I put my details on the author bio, underneath the author bio. And I usually have my social media links there as well, or where they can find them. So I think it's a good idea. I don't know whether, it's not too salesy, I don't think, because people want to find out about you.
Right. Yeah, and you're making it handy for them, so that way they don't have to go online and open up Google and search up your name and see where you're at. Because let's be honest, we all have short attention spans, and so the chances of them taking that extra time to do that it's a lot more of a barrier than if it's right there in your book.
Yeah, because I'm that kind of nerdy person that does go on Google. But not everybody is like that. So, it's best to provide them with as much info as possible.
Yeah, as much helpful information as possible. I think that's the key is, and with getting people to know, like, and trust you, and getting those digital handshakes, as you say, Dave, is again it goes back to quality and providing what they're looking for, whether that's you're filling in the need of information, entertainment, solving a problem, whatever that, first and foremost, you're filling that need, and you're doing it with good quality. Because I've seen plenty of people, unfortunately, publish a book, and I mean, you might get somebody to buy that first book because the cover was nice or whatever, but if it's not good quality, they're not going to buy a second book.
Right. Yeah. Well, and coming back to wherever you send them, just make sure that wherever you're sending them is something that's pertinent, as well as that you love and understand. Case in point is one time I wrote this article about, Reddit for authors, right? And Reddit is, let's put it this way. If you try to market in Reddit and you don't understand or love Reddit for what it is, you will get run out of town with pitchforks and torches. And it's like my warning to authors of, like, don't just be like, okay, I'm going to show up here and do something. Like, no, don't do that. If you are starting up TikTok, but you hate it, you don't enjoy it, you don't like it, you haven't found the true why of you doing TikTok, then don't send your people there. Don't make that the thing. If you have a X account, you have a Facebook account, you have an Instagram account, but you really only do things on, let's say Facebook, then don't put the other ones over there. Nothing worse than sending them over to an X account, an X channel or whatever, where there's no content, there's no interaction. You're not there. You're on. It's almost a deterrent. This author clearly isn't serious. This author isn't professional. Or, one of the things that I personally do is my Facebook page is just family. What's funny is I don't think, like, my family and friends in Facebook 9 times out of 10 don't even know what I do. like as a job or anything like that, because I just don't post anything about that. I just love Facebook because I post pictures of my kids, what we're doing as a family, we're on vacation, doing those kind of things. And never posted work related stuff. So me sending somebody to Dave Chesson at Facebook or so would do nothing for them except to see me as a person. And that's okay. That's okay if that's what you're trying to do. Whereas I do most of my work on the blog, right, on Kindlepreneur. So clearly it would be better for me to send them to Kindlepreneur than just some random, thing that has no value to them as an author, just them getting to see who I am. Same thing with Instagram. I'm not, I don't post much there. I do a lot of work on YouTube. So someone like me should not post all of my socials just because I have socials. Someone like me should put my blog and my YouTube channel, and I should explain Kindlepreneur and why it's great, for authors. I should explain, that I create YouTube videos because I want people to look over my shoulder as I do things. Now there's more reason to it. So I've just, my big thing to put to authors is don't just throw up any of your socials just because you have them. Only choose those that are the ones that you truly live in and that you believe provide the most value to them. Otherwise, you're, in essence, sending them down a dead end.
Right.
That is such an important point because I've just found that out the hard way as well. I basically thought I'll go on every social media platform that I know and post there. And I've come to the point now where I'm going to have to choose, because that's the other thing. Don't spread yourself too thinly all over the place because it's hard work to update every social media platform. And in my case, I've decided I'm going to just stick to 2 or 3 and that's it, because it's what you said, Dave. It's like if you don't like that platform yourself, if you're not even going there yourself, why are you sending your people there? So I think I'm going to drop a few of the platforms that are not really. The annoying thing is they're all doing well now, but it's just too much work. I can't keep up with all of them. So that's the other thing. Don't choose too many social media platforms. Just choose 1 or 2 and let them be where, or choose the ones where your people hang out the most. That's the best way to say it. Yeah.
Where you intend to be intentional is the most part. That's kind of the key. I know that some people it's funny is I don't have a TikTok account, and nor will I. But are there certain people that are my readers that I'm like, well, the only thing I'm on is TikTok, and if you're not there, then I'm not going to see you. Okay. Like I would much rather, and if you're wrestling with that internally yourself, the way that I'd put it is that I'm not going to force this square peg through that round hole. I'm not going to make myself love TikTok and make myself work to create content on it just so I can reach those people. Like I'm going to accept the fact of like, hey, look, if I do that, I don't understand TikTok. I don't enjoy. I don't want to add to my life the forcing myself to create it. What I will do is write a blog post. Love that. And that's where I feel like I'm very good. I know how to put those things together. That person would see my TikTok, my attempt at TikTok, and probably think less of me than if they didn't have me. So that's, if you're feeling that, if you're saying, well, everybody's on TikTok, again, I'm not knocking on TikTok, I'm just using an example, but if everybody's on TikTok and I'm not, then I'm going to be missing out. Or you could maybe take the time and do the thing that you're really good at and where you truly intend to live and do that well. I like that one better.
Yeah. And like you said, I mean, that makes perfect sense because again, it goes back to giving quality. And if you did it just to appease people and to try to get, some extra people to be able to find you, you're not giving them the quality that they would be looking for anyway. And so again, it would end up probably working negatively towards you.
Yeah. That's fair.
Absolutely. So I think it's also about how much, it's how much we think this is what people want from us. And maybe it's not. Maybe we just need to do what we think is best for us as well, because we can't be everywhere. We can't be on all the sides. And it's all about not taking on too much as well, because we do have a life outside of our business as well. And to me, that's important. There has to be a life-work balance. And if being on social media takes a lot of your time, you have to find a compromise there somewhere. So yeah, I agree with everything you said there. And it's the old thing where people think, if they're all on TikTok, or everybody's saying, because TikTok is apparently the place to be for books, like everybody keeps telling me, but what if you're just not into TikTok, or what do you do? So I think you have to kind of learn that people will find you. If they really like you, they will find you wherever you are as well. And I think that's undervalued in a way. I think that people will find you. So don't think you have to be everywhere just because everybody else is there. Not everybody is there. So,
right.
Because sometimes we think they are, but they're not really.
Yeah. And I think it comes back to what we were saying early on, is that, being where you want to be, being comfortable, and you can't make everybody happy. You're just not going to be able to. And so the important thing is, one, to me, like I said, to get repeat customers is to get them to know you. And so once they, whether you do it in the bio or any of the other fun pages that David suggested, getting them to know you, getting yourself, more familiar with them, more friendly, then they will find you, whether, and give them, one or two places that you're at. And again, let them know why it values them to find you there, what you're doing that can help them further, whether, again, it's nonfiction or fiction. And like you said, they'll find you. You don't have to be everywhere. We only have a finite amount of time. And so, I'd rather spend it, interacting with my fans, as far as the work balance, and writing my next book, than being on this platform and this platform and this platform just to make a couple extra people happy.
Yep.
True.
So my last question is do you guys think that, trying to think how to say this, could an author survive without getting repeat customers?
Good question. I can't think.
Oh, go ahead.
I can't answer that, to be honest, because I haven't been in this business long enough. So my initial gut feeling is no. But what do you think, Dave?
I think the answer is it depends. Let's put it this way: it gets a lot harder if you don't have some of the things we talked about in getting repeat customers. But it doesn't mean, and matter of fact, if you're not working to get repeat customers, you're only hurting your revenue potential. Okay. That being said, though, is that being able to create a book, put it on Amazon, get it in the right keywords so that shoppers on Amazon continue to find it, you will make sales. But you could be adding the new people that found you and the old people on top of that. Not doing what we talked about here means you're losing that component. And personally, it makes marketing on Amazon so much easier when you have repeat customers. Case in point, if I have an email list, okay, and one of the things I tell people is when you go to launch your next book, I like to break up my email list into cohorts. Let's say 4 different groups, right? So let's say I have 10,000 people on my email list, 2,500, 2,500, 2,500, 2,500. There you go. I will actually eke out the 2,500 emails over time so as to consistently drive more sales. And that makes Amazon, we wrote an article called Amazon Popularity Effect, but we did this experiment and proved that when Amazon sees consistent sales, like they decide to show your book more in their store. Okay. They start adding you to keywords that you didn't ask for, but they know is probably that next step. They have historic data that says, hey, books that do well for this keyword also do well for these 4 others over here. Let's put you over there, which, by the way, having the reverse ASAN and seeing what those keywords are is excellent. But they start doing that. And if you don't have those repeat customers, if you do not have that email list, then you're just throwing it up there and, just hoping all of your dependency is on Amazon.
Right.
To do the work and to find the customers. So yes, you can still succeed. You can still make sales because you come out with it, but you're almost like kind of shooting yourself in the foot and starting a marathon just a little bit. And you're missing out on all those people that you worked last time to get, because now those people could be over on top of this. If it's almost like a bar graph, where it's like the bar graph is, here's how much you do by Amazon sending people to your book. Here's how much money you could also get by having repeat customers if you took these actions. Now your revenue's this instead of this.
Yeah, that was kind of my thought, was that I guess the way I would put it is, you can survive without repeat customers, but I don't think you can thrive without repeat customers. Because it's like you're a hamster on a wheel. Like you always have to be working for the, on that next book. And when you have those repeat customers, again, it gets progressively, I don't want to say easier, but the money that you spend on ads is going to be that much, less, or going to be that much more efficient, because you already, the repeat customers are kind of paying for the ads at that point. So yeah, I think you can absolutely see success, and you can make money doing it. But I definitely think that taking the things that we've talked about, and getting repeat customers will definitely, help your bottom line, and just make things easier for you, and make Amazon love you even more.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, this has been another great mastermind, Nuria. And thanks again, Dave, for joining us today.
Absolutely. And thanks for having me.
We'll have to have you on again.
Yes.
Yeah. A huge thank you to all our listeners and viewers who came to tag along. If you enjoyed today's mastermind, please consider following or subscribing to the podcast, and maybe even leave us a review and let us know what you thought. Until next time, I'm Keith Wheeler.
And I'm Nuria Colby.
Have a good one, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining the Mastermind today. Be sure to follow the podcast on your platform of choice, and tell a friend who would enjoy it too. Your support is greatly appreciated. This has been the Masterminding Success Podcast.